Okay, maybe a couple of minutes. More people will come. And okay, I think we can start. I think that we are done with our literature presentation, so I don't see anyone signing up unless there is any last minute volunteer to present anything. So we have like 2 weeks to discuss some other stuff, and I think that we can just brainstorm our ideas as we discussed it, already started to discuss it 2 weeks ago. So I see that, yeah, 14, we have only, I think, covered 4 presentations, and 14 people submitted. So I see that some people would like to submit or to present in the next week. So not this week. Just tell me if this is the case, and I suggest that we just go in the order of people having submitted. And I know that 4 people presented. Sila, Carmina, I think Sylvia presented. Lisa did not present, I think. So Lisa is not here today, no. Okay, so, and Shinran, you presented, yeah. So then we just can see who is here today and who would like to present still, in this week. I may have some additional material on my side. So if we don't have if we have time, so we can just discuss that part as well. And I hope that in the last week we also will be able to cover as many presentations as possible. All right, so yeah, let's see, maybe just in this order of submissions. Gaia is not here, yeah. Then Luca, yeah, all right, yeah, so then just let's load, and I will open it, and right, so sorry,
I stay here. I can stay here. Or...
You can stay here, or you can just manage. Okay. Just switch sides, or whatever is best.
Yeah,
what's best.
So actually, I don't have already clear ideas, but I took an idea from a research of my ex-flatmate in Italy, and he studied the semantic prosody of 3 verbs, of 3 synonyms. So encourage, induce, and urge. And then, so I used another corpus than him, the English Web 2021. And these were the results. So encourage is used rather in a positive or neutral context. We see, for example, encourage student, people, everyone, or participation, development, growth. Whereas induce is used rather in a more negative context, like toxicity, or a lot of a seizure, a lot of medical terms, and that is something that also wasn't mentioned in his research. So this thing that a lot of modifiers of the term induce were from medical context, so apoptosis, coma, stress, vomiting, seizure, injury, or death. Yeah, so that was my idea for the moment. But yeah.
Any questions? And how did you come up with this idea to compare just these pairs of words, encouragement and useful? So is it from his research?
Exactly, yeah. And maybe I could also see if these contexts change in languages like Italian or also German. So the semantic prosody of these terms.
I think with like first step might be to check the check if in your corpus
Mm-hmm.
the words are semantically related via the thesaurus function. So if you go to select corpus and then go select thesaurus and put first encourage and see where induce comes in this list.
Mm-hmm.
Induce actually appears in this list or not. And in which place. So sometimes it might be further up the list, and I understand that maybe in the corpus where your flatmate was investigating these issues, that came quite up.
Yeah, it was the Araneo Magnum. I don't remember. No, I don't remember now. Okay.
Some political texts, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Because I understand if we select a medical corpus, for example, the things that don't necessarily cover all the domains like 1010 corpus. So we might not see encouraged at all. So induce will be very specific medical term, and encourage will not be used terminologically, so that kind of they will be quite separate. With 1010, I think we have this a little bit of a mixture. So there are some medical documents crawled from the web. There are some just general language documents. So I think this domain specificity might be something to control that with at least. So if you have like medical context, so you can treat them separately from the non-medical usages of the word induced, because it's like induced coma, for example. You have so something which you either just do as part of medical procedures, so you induce certain conditions, even though they might be like part of this workflow, though they might be dangerous, but it could be just one like only possibility. Or it could be that it's a consequence of some illness or illness induce something. Specific usage. And first thing you can check is thesaurus entries. So first thesaurus for encourage and on which place induces, and then thesaurus for induce and which place encourage. And then if there is the word like urge, something like third word, the limitation of Sketch Engine is that it doesn't actually compare three words, so it cannot be, so you can only compare pairwise. So you do encourage, urge, induce, urge, encourage, induce.
So the
three ways. So it's like four words, then just combinatorics grows. But also you can just check if they are mutually somehow sharing the same context. So this thesaurus shows you where there are some common content. I see that here there is kind of quite clear distinction between the two types of context. But there is some a little bit of overlap. Some things like you can induce change and encourage change, right?
Yes. The state and production.
Production, so encourage production, induce production, and encourage state and induce state. I think in this case, so if kind of you might concentrate actually on these specific contexts where they are synonyms, where they're using, so majority of contexts, they are quite separate, but it's interesting in which type of context you have the overlap where they can be used interchangeably. And what can be also done is the analysis of semantic valences of these words. So valences is like term from chemistry where we basically look at how words bind with other words in the context. And the idea is that, for example, verbs, they open some placeholders, and they expect certain fillers for these slots. So you have encourage as verbs, so someone encourages, so subject and objects are these, and here it, kind of, you look into the object here, but also subject can be like another dimension. And you here could just generalize for semantic type of, in this case, object. So the valency of the object, or the object valency for encourage is not simply that it's positive or negative, it's also the type of semantic type of things that is filling the word, so typically encourage. And this is how in lexicography we can distinguish different meanings of the word encourage. Right? So if the semantic type of the object changes, then we already can assume that it's not used in the same kind of word sense. We had some presentations about word senses, but in general, so it's different meaning or different sense of the word formally can be signaled by the change of the number of these semantic balances, or the type of fillers for these semantic balances. So here, encourage. So if we encourage people, we encourage students, we encourage what else? Individuals, we encourage something who is like active agent.
Yes,
Maybe one sense. Then another sense, if we encourage abstract things, we encourage growth, we encourage interaction, we encourage development. So this is like encourage some change, encourage transition of the. So it's not that you directly say some motivational speech to your friends or colleagues, but it's doing some, implementing some policies, actions, and it's quite different type of encouragement. So it's the semantic type we change from active agents to abstract case properties. And with induce, I think you cannot induce these active agents, you cannot induce people, you cannot induce students. So it's only so you induce what? You induce only this second type, right? Yeah, so
yes,
you induce response. Yeah, so you can encourage response, you can induce response. Yeah, so here, and this is where things become interesting, because here you induce degradation, but you don't encourage degradation. Yeah? So here we have like competition for the semantic space. Yeah. So the semantic type of the object is like the same. Yeah. Degradation is the change of phase. Yeah. So you can implement some policy to which causes degradation. Yeah. The British government implemented policy, and the result was degradation. So then, which word we choose for this? Yeah? And here is this positivity, negativity comes into play. Yeah? So if this is something which is part of the intention, then it's encouraged. Yes, so we encourage growth. We encourage. So our intention was, but. The policy induced, Brexit induced degradation. It wasn't intended, yes, so it was part of it. So it's how we describe these words in dictionaries, so how we structure the dictionary articles, and where there is this problem of making the choice for this, because it's kind of, I think maybe possibility to distinguish word meanings could be obscuring the experiment in the sense that just not only this story that is positive and negative, but it's there are lots of things which come into play.
Yes.
Okay, any other observations about these types of words? Be interesting to see also the subjects, so who encourages and who or what induces. So
Yes.
is it animate? There is some relation between them. There could be like guidance for this distinction is the existing dictionary entries for these words. So how the articles in the entries for encourage and induce is represented in a dictionary, so Oxford English Dictionary or any translation dictionary. Because there will be meanings and sub-meanings, and different meanings might be translated differently into the target language. So it might be these subtleties where you encourage with intention, induce without intention. This distinction might not be relevant for Italian or for German. So I cause, encourage, induce, maybe some interaction will be there, and you could actually discover something interesting which is not in the dictionary. So, for example, this intentionality behind encourage could be that it's not listed as one of the features in the article, and you clearly can see this in the presentation of this distinction. So dictionary entries usually are not done on the basis of word sketch differences. So they may write it nowadays with the word sketch like for one word, but I think this distinction and things which are relevant for translation come up only when we encounter this just contrast, lexical contrast with synonyms. So this distinction between synonyms and possibility to translate, to use different synonyms to translate, is what typically does not, or is not explicitly present in the dictionary. So we can just extend some understanding of how the word is used with this type of investigation. Yes, it's, something you will learn something that is not known to lexicographers, and would be interesting to exploit in this way. But generally, you will notice that when you look into the existing dictionary entry and how many meanings are encouraged, has, you will see that typically each of the concordance lines falls into one of these meanings. But there might be some cases where it's not exactly, there is not exact match. And that's the most interesting bit, where you can, for example, so encourage change or induce change. So does it depend if, so how do you decide? So is it, does this hypothesis still hold that if the change is intentional, so you encourage it? If the change is unfortunate, negative, unintentional, automatic, something beyond our control, then it's induced. So is this does this hold? Or are there some contexts which don't fit this model, so don't fit this picture? So that's I think the most interesting bit. So you formulate some hypotheses about the features, contextual features which are relevant in selecting one of these words and potentially overlapping context in that. just
Yes.
test it with
Yeah.
with what we have. Right, and I think here is well potentially quite big task because you have even for this pair of words potentially many concordance lines, so you have to somehow limit the scope of your house outline.
Yeah.
So you don't write like another PhD about this. So you just might consider whether taking translations still kind of goes beyond the time which you can allow for this, because even or limiting the number of concordance lines, for example, restricting to the first 20 concordance lines which you can compare. So managing the amount of material which you analyze and so the type of, so it's kind of depends whether you go deeper or you go broader. So very often it's more interesting to go deeper.
Yeah.
This, so that's my view.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? What else do we have here? Oh yeah. Okay. So there's some illnesses, contraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ptosis, I think it's also medical. And I think there is one interesting bit where you can address if there is the terminological usage of the word induce. So if the word induce is part of the standardized description of events in the medical domain, where people just do not use any other words, and this is like a normalized way of referring to some medications, some illnesses, so induced toxicity, so some kind of chemicals in the environment induce toxicity, and you don't like interchange that, so they don't use cause toxicity, so it's always inducing. If there is this terminologically established pattern, so that becomes like not part of the choice, it's part of the like we use it as the way how language is supposed to be used. So it's normativity of the language rather than just negotiation and agreement on the usage. And so I think it's kind of, you can like consider taking apart the terminological usages and consider things where there is potential free variation of potential this choice, where because in a terminological field you don't have choice typically.
Yes.
All right. Can you just show the results?
Yes.
And also there is this issue with semantic prosody versus connotation. So there is some literature of some people just say it's the same. So connotation is semantic prosody, semantic prosody is connotation. But sometimes there are some researchers who distinguish this. One school of thought says that if it is intuitively felt, if there is some consciousness, awareness, like regime is negative, yes, you have a connotation, like clear connotation. Semantic prosody is like more subtle, like the word cause, so sometimes you are not consciously aware that it's negative, but it could be, so try to carefully use this terminology.
Yes.
Objects of encouragement, creativity. These abstract things like dialogue, engagement.
Exactly. Yes.
So there is this common territory over which they compete when the type of the object is essentially similar. And whether this intentionality then or
Plays a role.
expectedness
Yes.
in medical context, so it's kind of separate. It's negative. Yeah, and then what you understand with negative objects, so it could be clarified a little bit because the objects themselves in the world are neither positive or negative.
Yes.
But there is negativity in perception. So we, as active participants, active agents in this world, perceive the negativity or positivity as a consequence of interaction and perceived benefits versus perceived dangers of some sort of stress is usually unwelcomed. Yes, so if it is something that yes, there are researchers, they say that some moderate level of stress is actually welcome. But there is this damage to toxicity, something that is not part of the benefits or kind of doesn't produce something. So
Yes.
Being a little bit more careful with terminology.
Okay.
All right. No further comments. Thanks.
Thank you. This is
Yeah. So I think there is quite a lot of potential for this type of lexicographical research. I have a bit of a problem now with the mouse, so I hope it doesn't break. All right. Yeah. So let's see who else. Anna is not here. Roxana. Not here, Gonzalo, not here, Amar. So, okay, so let's. Here, yeah.
So, yeah, my idea is just similar to my presentation. I still thought it was more about collocations, but because my presentation was more like general, I wanted to focus on something. It's not clear yet. I just did like small experiment, but yeah, it's about like collocations in business English. And yeah, the aim is just to identify and analyze common collocations found in business English using a small sample, financial articles like 10 to 15, and the BNC corpus.
BNC, British National.
Yeah. See, yeah. Business subcourse. Yeah. So it's just like 10 to 15 articles from Financial Times and The Economist, and yeah, Sketch Engine. I'll use BNC, or maybe I'll just I'm not sure yet because I haven't like looked into it that much, but I feel like I can like BNC business subcorpus would be enough. Yeah, so I just, for example, like some target words like risk, market, growth, and yeah, I'll extract collocations using MI, and yeah, I'll focus on, for example, adjective plus noun or verb plus noun patterns. Yeah, and for example, here's some examples and results. Like risk, take a risk, and the type, and yeah, just focus on the types and yeah, like base words and the highest frequency collocations. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really looked, but yeah, it's just yeah.
Suppose the risk would be verb plus article plus noun, or would you like allow for some distance between verb and noun?
Yeah.
Take a risk, of the risk.
Mhm. You mean
Yeah, that A.
yeah,
is
the A thing. Yeah, I actually found that pose a risk. It's kind of hard for L2 learners because it's not like literal,
Mhm.
but yeah. Yeah, this is just a small idea. Haven't really just clear yet. But yeah, I wanted to do something collocations. Didn't really know like exactly what to focus on, so I felt like business English would be a good idea. Yeah. So yeah, I did a few examples,
Mhm.
and just like a small, I used the my collocations tend to be formalic and frequent. Some collocations, again, as pose a risk, are not literal, so they're harder for
Mhm.
L2 learners. And business English relies on fixed phrases. That's why my first takeaways for clarity and precision. And yeah. just,
So I think this is quite
specific.
potentially broad topic, and kind of you can formulate some directions where this can be applied or used.
Yeah, this was actually why I wanted to like.
And I like this term that it is L2 learners, this potential application, right? And so you can use this result for.
I mean, yeah, the thing is like, as much as I try to like be as specific as possible, it still tends to be a broad topic. But yeah.
So any comments on variations or any potential synergies with what you are doing, other people are doing? So just methodologically, you want to take a few articles from some specific business English domain. In British National Corpus, can you, I have done this myself, but is there a way how you can isolate business texts from the rest of the BNC?
And the BNS business subcorpus.
Business subcorpus, yeah.
I would assume I've tried. I think because I did just like I took small samples.
Yeah.
Haven't tried the BNS subcorpus yet, but I would assume it's if I would use something like a DOS, probably
DOS.
the filtering, what's the name? The technique, filtering BOS stands for ice.
So you mean filtering by syntax types?
Yeah.
Because British National Corpus is like,
Huge.
we discussed this, it's like walled garden, so it's not like 1010 corpus, which is the jungle that you kind of get everything which is like grows on the internet in the wild. They designed it carefully and they inserted some business tags and labeled business tags clearly, but the question is whether this information is accessible in Sketch Engine. I would guess that, yeah, so there is some documentation which tells you exactly which files are kind of come from the business domain. So one thing which you can do is like try to locate those sources if there is some structure to BNC. But I know that British National Corpus may be like with the same problem as with Europal corpus. There is some annotation which is not used in that corpus. Europal has another problem that for some tasks you're interested in the source language, who is native speaker, if the speaker is native speaker of German, for example, and if the speech in the English Europal corpus is translation from German into English. So this directionality very often is important, but it's not labeled in the Sketch Engine. So its information is lost, and basically, so people sometimes don't care, but you might consider if translators use the language different way than the original speakers, can be investigated because we lose that information. Here, maybe the same thing. So you may not have this clearly the structure of the BNC explicitly there. So you just try to find some kind of ways of maybe around it. There are some platforms where BNC and structure kind of are possible.
Yeah, that's why I had like two options. Either I kick in like articles or just a BNS business. I haven't tried it yet, but I just included it. I would assume like even with documentations, it would still be difficult.
The Economist, I think, also contains some political articles. So if you are clearly interested in this business-oriented articles, so you might be like designing it from scratch. Maybe the platform with LexisNexis platform, UniLexis, could be just a starting point for it. So if you create your own corpus, that's one thing, one consideration. The second one is these target words. That's a very interesting and promising direction, because you might end up with some resource for teaching business English for L2 learners. Yeah, so that's these collocates will pose a risk, for example. Yeah, so it's not part of what usually people learn as part of standard curriculum, but the business English should include that type of collocate, and these types of standardized ways of referring might be useful lexicographical resource or teaching resource of how you create these expectations for recognizing these patterns, and most essentially for actively using these patterns. Because if you are talking about the framework for language learning, so you just need to consider active competences and passive competences. Active writing and speaking, and passive reading and listening. Yeah, so, and this distinction might be, so you can just recognize what is posed there is, but you may not actively use it in the environment. So just this activation stage, when you move the word from passive to active, could rely on these results. So this could be just interesting. But then this type of selection of target word is risk, market, and growth. So on what basis do you select these words? So is there some way?
Yeah, like there's some highest frequency collocation.
Sorry?
Highest frequency collocation.
Yeah, but collocation themselves are calculated in relation to some target word. Yeah, so you can calculate collocation for the word risk, but you cannot calculate collocations for the business English because you somehow
Different domain.
Need a starting point. Collocations can be calculated for a specific word. So if you don't know whether these words like risk, market, and growth are most important or most typical, maybe you just need some way of proving that they are important. So it can be one case is like case study. So you select some words which you think are relevant or get from some learning material for business English, and then try them as a pilot project. So how you can create this learning resource for language to learners with respect to these keywords, key words that I use in this domain. So that could be a possibility. Another possibility, I think, did anyone use the keyword extraction functionality in Sketch Engine? Yeah. So, did it work?
Yes. Or I don't know if I understand right. Like the function, the normal function keywords. Yeah, it worked.
So which corpus was that?
Flowers.
For flowers. Oh yeah, for flowers. What was the reference corpus?
I don't know because the Sketch Engine doesn't.
By default, I think it's.
Yeah.
That doesn't say, but
Exactly.
It uses something.
Exactly. Yes.
I think you can try this function of keyword extraction, especially if you have your own corpus. So, or you isolate this business text and create subcorpus. Then for BNC subcorpus, you can use the rest of the BNC as reference corpus. If you use Financial Times, Economist, etc., so you create something like 10, 15 articles, which will be your target corpus. And then you choose either 1010 or BNC as a reference corpus. And the words which will come up at the top of this keyword extraction list, so will be the words which are much more frequent in the target corpus in comparison to the reference corpus. And most of them, and then you can select them on the basis of domain. Yes, so there will be some non-business terms there, but you can just filter them. And I would guess that risk, market, and growth will be quite high up on the list. But the beauty of it is that you will get many more words. So and then you can just justify that. Yeah, let me. It's fine to focus on 3 or 4 words just to create this type of resource. But you can just say that it's not like feels good to me, whereas it's justified by this method of selecting words. So you're basically creating a workflow for creating learning resources for a specific domain, and first step would be to identify the words that are relevant for this domain. So, and business English is something which has a big market and has not been done systematically on the corpus-based grounding. And you can just claim that your innovative contribution is creating this pipeline, these steps for investigating these resources by identification of potentially useful words which might require acquisition, so that they should be frequent, but they should be like quite distinct, have some distinctive use in the target text. The same as with this induce word in the medical text. So if you would like to teach doctors how to use it, so you might isolate the medical text and then investigate patterns for use. So here maybe there will be some other verbs like I don't know, to grow, to yes, so to invest, for example, where things will be quite different from the rest. That's this step. Then the next step would be to this mutual information things, extract collocation. So you might ask the following question. You generate mutual information collocates, so log likelihood collocates, log dice collocates, so each of them will return you different types of collocates. So some will include more rare words, some will include more frequent words, so there are these things. But it's kind of, usually with collocates you have this problem where you stop, so where you draw the line, so where kind of the collocation list doesn't produce too much of the starts to produce lots of noise rather than just something that is useful for you. Have you considered this kind of, is it like first 10 collocates, or what criteria of distinguishing this? So in general, so the collocates further down the list are less and less useful, right? This high mutual information usually means that it's yeah. So how you might consider this kind of selecting the resources of at which point you stop?
Based on a frequency, the first few, then just I would assume just like the first few words.
Usually, if it is small corpus, then the frequency of one sometimes is meaningless. So you kind of keep things which are have at least occurred twice, and the rest might be some noise. If it is a larger corpus, so even though the more frequent items might be already noise. So there are some techniques, I think statistical techniques is called, I think we looked into it in back in 2023, I think 2022. We published a paper about this method for investigating the limit where kind of this noise overwhelms the useful things in collocations. And there is this mathematical technique, and I think there is a Python library which allows you, kind of given the list with values, to find so-called knee, the knee in the curve. Usually this is Zipf-ian distribution, so you have very few items with high mutual information, and then it drops very sharply, but then it kind of flattens up. So kind of there is this knee, there is this bend in the distribution where this sharp drop flattens, and you start gaining like very little difference between them. And so I think this method allows you to find this point of break of the values, where I think the difference between the previous one and the next one is less than the average kind of so far. And I think this kind of either this knee point or knee times 2 very often is a good indicator of this useful, not useful. So noise and signal. So you might consider that, because that usually kind of gives a quite reliable prediction of what to include into this dictionary, or what to include into the learning teaching set, and what to discard as some kind of sporadic. So when you are not gaining so mutual information, so you are not gaining much of the score. If you go down the list, then it's a high indication that possibly the rest what you are seeing is very much noise.
Can I use the Python library?
Yes. I think if you look up this knee library, you can. I think it takes the list of something which you can download from Sketch Engine. The collocates for the word risk, for example, ranked by mutual information, and the values for mutual information are returned. Yes, so you kind of get, and it calculates you the knee point for for this list of values. Yes. Basically, you can kind of do it even in spreadsheets, so by calculating by hand, but the library is makes it in standardized way. And then final point about these patterns: adjective, noun, verb, and noun. So one thing which you can apply is filtering collocation lists by some specific parts of speech. Yes, so you can say, return me only collocates with this part of speech
Combination.
So kind of collocates in this window with part of speech pattern, and this might be more useful as speech narratives for.
That was the word I was trying to remember. Part of speech. The POS.
Yeah. POS, part of speech. Yeah. Part of speech. But I think we were talking at that stage about text types.
Yeah, it was.
And part of speech could be characteristic to specific text type, but I don't think there is kind of direct relation. Some business text may be more heavy on nouns, but I think it's open question whether there is any part of speech patterns which investigate there. And I think you can also investigate what is quite interesting. If you can show the next slide. Here you have these typical collocations, but also there is one thing which might be relevant for second language learners that collocations don't tell you. And this is how much variability you have in the pattern which you suggest people to learn. For example, take a risk is something which they should learn. Can you say take risks?
And but then it drives away from the concept of
take a risk, take risks. So if you by default, if you search for take, risk will be returned, and it might be the sketch engine lemmatizes it, so it kind of brings together risks and risks. So plural and singular are like brought together. And again, I think this was your article about this colligation, where there is this lexical priming. This doesn't work throughout. So, for example, sustained growth is possible. Sustained growths. Market share, for example. So market share, but market shares, it's completely different thing. So shares as plural doesn't work. Take risks works. So this is also important knowledge, how much you can change this pattern, how much you can use this in other respects. So you can just design queries to test these collocations like in their lemma form. So you design this CQL corpus query language query where you say that I need take and I need risk as lemmas. So which means taking risks, takes risk, took risks. So it will return you single and plural, and you can then see what type of variation you have in this pattern. So takes any morphological form, has taken risk, will take risk. So, but that might be more restricted. Pose a risk. Pose risks might be not as open to this variation in plurality. Pose a risk might be more restricted than take a risk. So it might be also some useful information in this case. So, and that's my suggestion. So first you can identify which words you want to use, or select these words, justifying that they are the keywords. Then you can generate the list of useful collocates and prove that these within this knee, the breaking point, mutual information, let's say, or any other, so that they make sense in terms of noise signal balance And thirdly, you can investigate how much variation you have in the patterns which you identified. So to try to design some like a dictionary or word list or domain specific learning material for a class, for example, in business English, where you could teach how things are used, giving the examples and showing that some things should be like restricted in their morphological features, and some things can be like more open to variation, and to what extent they may be more open to variation in this domain. And I think this openness to variation may be a little bit harder to investigate if you look into these 15 articles. So you may look into this larger documents where you can see that, yeah. So market shares is not used, but take risks is used. Pose risks is not used. Yes, so it's kind of to create it. But I think that's kind of the main thrust of creating some teaching materials for language to learn would be a very good innovative focus for this type of research. Is there any other comments or questions? If not, so thanks a lot. Do we have any other presentations? Okay, yeah, no, Anuk, okay. So,
Okay, I have a bit of a more niche tema. I'm going to say that right away, and I'm sorry. And I'm not 100% sure about the design so far, because there are a few issues I'm running into, so I would be very open to input, ideas, feedback. I would like to see how well modern terminology extraction tools work on historical specialized language. So not our current specialized language, but what specialized language used to look like in the 1800s, 1900s. And my idea for the case study is to specifically analyze how accurate is it, and how can I get it to work more accurately. For that, I'm going to use Gustav Steinbrechts Das Gymnasium des Pferdes. It's one of, like, it's the standard work of classical equestrian literature, and it was published in 1886, and it has 336 pages. When I read it, I kinda understand it. It's first of all, a specialized language, so if you don't have anything to do with horses, you'll fail. I'm sorry. And it's historical language, but not badly historical language. So you will stumble across a few very unusual ways of putting things, but it is still understandable. And what I'm going to do, that is, I'm going first to put together a corpus, as I can't use the whole thing. 336 pages is a bit too much. So I'm going to use a few separate instances from the corpus where I think terminology extraction could work. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to manually extract what I think are term candidates by hand. And then I'm going to have a machine look at what the machine thinks term candidates are. And what I would like to do that is an analysis of noise and silence frequency. So what did I find that the machine didn't find, and what did the machine find that I didn't find? In order to do that, we have to assume that I do perfect terminology work. That's just not 100% sure, but it is what it is. And the experimental part of it all will be I will try to see whether I can get Ancong or maybe Sketch Engine to somehow give me better results than the machine, than a whole terminology management extraction tool. Because I tried it out on this part. That is my manual extraction, where I marked what I think could be a term candidate. As you see, it's all German font, so it's great to put it in a corpus. I have to have the whole thing transcribed by AI because I can't really read all of it. And when I tried to do machine extraction with Determiner, it didn't work. It gave me so much noise, so many things were marked as that is a potential term candidate. You can already see it here. Natürlich is not something you would have as a term candidate. So I'm going to try whether I can have Ancong or Sketch Engine give me better results than just a tool that does it all by itself. Yeah, but that's the problem. I don't study computer linguistics, so I'm not that versed with programming, so we'll see how I do, and I'm very open for ideas on how to get Sketch Engine or Ancong work. What I thought that I could try that is a stop list, because after some time you realize what are the typical words that are a problem for correct term recognition. And I also kind of thought, because Sketch Engine has an integrated part of speech tag, that I could try with part of speech tagging, but I'm not sure whether it'll work. So if anybody has any other ideas, I would be very open.
I think just to clarify, you have the book, right?
Yeah,
So
I have the complete version of the book.
and you scanned some of the pages, right?
Right.
And you can. So how is the quality of transcribing it into this?
Okay. It's a lot of times it doesn't recognize the umlaute, the Ü, O's, but for the rest it works fine. I think the conversion, I did it with an AI tool that took like 5 minutes, and then me looking over it, another 5 minutes. It's only a page here, but it was not that bad that I thought I need to put a lot of work in here to correct it.
Which AI tool are you using? Just standard language models?
I don't remember. It's one specialized for having this kind of font, Gotik, into modern.
Yeah, and is it like subscription based or free?
It's free.
It's free. Okay, yeah, because I think that there is this Transcribus, which our colleagues in Germanistic and other departments are using for this type of
Transcribus, it's called.
Transcribus here, but
Okay.
it's paid. Yes, we need like a license and.
Yeah, I'll see. Maybe I can get a license from our library. Sometimes they give out licenses.
Yeah, that might be a consideration. Yes, or if there's so kind of specialized. But if this is something like you would be doing on a larger scale at any stage of your career, there are some like dedicated tools for this.
Yeah, if I were to transcribe the whole book, I think that would be necessary.
But you scanned only a few pages. You didn't scan them.
No, I just took a few pages where I thought there were a lot of term candidates, and I will try to get the corpus as full as possible. But given that I always have to do a manual extraction, I can't do 236 pages, otherwise it will be hard to get done with the essay.
I think it's a very interesting direction, so it can be like continued in other forms. So for this house,
I also thought about maybe mixing up the authors, but then I was like, don't overcomplicate things and don't take on more than you can handle.
Yeah, I think this is a very good approach that you kind of focus on methodology, this noise versus silence balance, and this could be then scaled up if you would like to continue that, or present this as a potential project for like your team at some workplace, or as a research project for an academic team. This might be then taken as a blueprint and applied to a larger framework, larger extent. So some considerations here. There is also like free tool. Standardly libraries use this, and it's like Mannheim library, I think, develops even some models, and they developed some models even for the Gothic script for this type of old German books. The tool is called Tesseract, and it runs on Windows, it runs on Mac, on Unix servers, on Linux servers, and it's like command line. Yes, so you need like to write like in this prompt Tesseract, and then you need to convert things. So it's not that straightforward, but I think recognizing the whole book could be doable free of charge if you are interested. Yeah. So there is this technology that you can create a pipeline with these typical errors. Also, something which you can run through spell checker, for example. But it's another question: how much of this old language doesn't fit the modern like specifications for German? So if, for example, you put this through the German spell checker in Word, how many of the words will be highlighted as not being part of modern standard German?
It's like, it appears, but it's not that much. Like I might have every 2 to 3 sentences, I have a way of writing things that is not correct with modern day grammar. Like I think there's also one in here, like Titan with an H.
Okay.
It appears. My spell checker on Word also marks it, but it's not. It's 3, 4, 5 errors per page.
Okay, so that's could be, and that's kind of a question: what to do with these words if you kind of do you leave them?
So far, I kept them because it was not. It didn't apply to term candidates because it was a lot of times just like the general text, not specifically term candidates, but I think it will also appear in some term candidates. So
because I think that could appear as noise sometimes. So it's naturally, maybe it was just overused, and that's why it kind of appeared there. But I would guess that Tileton will be there if it's used at least twice, if it's found at least twice, so, and it's not found in the 1010 corpus. Then it just will appear as a term candidate because it's simply more frequent.
That's correct.
Here than there. I think you mentioned this part of speech tagging. If you upload a standard file as your own corpus to Sketch Engine, it does part of speech tagging, so it's like part of the normal workflow. It tries to apply what it knows about German. So you specify that this is German, but you don't have a way of saying that this is all.
Exactly. That's I don't want to do part by speech tagging on the whole text, because then I'm really not going to be done at any point. But Sketch Engine has this automated part of speech tagging, and I wanted to try whether it works. The thing is, I think in German the patterns are not as straightforward as in English for what is a potential term candidate. So the only benefit I would have from part of speech tagging is compound nouns. Like I could tell Sketch Engine to give me all of the compound nouns, and a lot of the compound nouns will probably be term candidates. That's why I wanted to try it. I'm not sure whether it's going to go anywhere, but
I think it's quite interesting work quite interesting exercise and problem just where there is this button. Sketch Engine also for term construction uses some like rules, some grammar, term grammar, and for German it might be different, like modern German might be different from the German of this age. So something which you might consider as a multiple word term or a compound term might not just be extracted because it doesn't fit this profile. So I think the most interesting bit is how much of the old or this nature of this text belonging to the time of 2 centuries ago, how much this
how much it will influence.
What is the impact of the time distance of how much the language changed, and that's I think this very innovative part.
Yeah, it's also like I can read it and realize it's old language, and I immediately recognize that some ways of saying things is just old language, but the computer doesn't. And that became, I was kind of shocked because I actually thought that the term extraction would work better than it did. Yeah.
It will. So, but it's like the main problem is noise. Yeah, so usually it tries to.
It also has some silence.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
yeah, it also doesn't recognize somewhat.
Yeah, I think these algorithms with the sketch engine determiner, paraconc or antconc, they are based on the statistical and part of speech patterns that are known to work for modern language or like optimized for modern language. So you will see some of the differences that might be most interesting bits, which you can like highlight rhetorically, that some things require. So if you would like to look into the old language, so something needs to be changed in these patterns. So this is one part. But also you can try extracting terms with these either zero shot or few shot large language models. So you can submit this page to Gemini and or ChatGPT, and you can try either just designing a prompt, extract terms, or ask design this prompt and give a few examples. So this kind of second scenario, kind of that would improve with giving examples. And then I think this kind of quite different approach, but whether there still will be this time distance issue, whether there still will be some silence and noise due to the things that belongs to the old language. Yeah. So large language models make kind of similar type of mistakes.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, any other questions or comments? With one issue here, with if you submit like these few pages, for example, 1 page, a few pages, in Sketch Engine, the algorithm is also taking into account the frequency of the word inside your target box, inside your
okay.
And kind of there will be different results if you submit 1 page, 2 pages, 10 pages, or 100 pages. So
I can try to have two corpuses, two corpora, one with the whole book and one with just my my instances that I extracted by hand, and I can see what it gives me then.
Because you can manually check only just a few pages, but if you submit like a longer document, so it will kind of this noise will become smaller than a signal, because things will kind of pop up that they are frequently used. So it will be like more representative basis for this sketch engine. With the large language models, I think it should be sufficient. So in one page, so it doesn't.
I think most large language models will also won't let me upload 236 pages.
Exactly. It's kind of limitations of what can be done. But yeah, I think it's a very nice problem to see if the triggers for extracting terminology for automated tools, the statistical and the generative AI have changed, or whether they kind of are impacted by the type of language that kind of listens. And I think in digital humanities, this kind of big area of research, there is Heidelberg Center for Digital Humanities, which looks into part of speech tagging and syntactic annotation for this Middle German, High Middle German syntax, which are not covered by modern tools, but they are important for understanding like the language of poetry or that.
We can argue how useful term management is for texts that are 200 or 300 years old, but I just wanted to see whether it would actually work. And surprise, it doesn't.
But I think it's this is like not an isolated project. It could like feed into this paradigm of digital humanities research. Yeah, that you like terms are quite have quite technical definition in the modern world, that you kind of update this terminological basis. You have this time pressure to deliver the document with collaborative translation, but consistent translation of the terms, but still kind of this applies to historical documents as well. And there are some open questions which are not necessarily part of this technical pipeline, but are more about our heritage, our like digitalizing our heritage, and what we would like to like see as part of the culture. And this is like relation to horses, between people and horses.
Yeah, the thing is, the text doesn't. It is old, but it hasn't really lost any importance. It's still part of the guidelines for how dressage is judged nowadays as a modern horse sports. It's still the foundation of it. So it's old. It's sometimes hard to understand, but it hasn't lost importance, which is why I chose it.
Does it mean like to be translated into modern German?
There are a few. Okay, now it's going to be very nerdy and very. There is in this book there's a very well-known passage which says "Richte dein Pferd gerade und reite es vorwärts." The problem, however, is modern writers don't understand what it's meant to say, because they only know that one sentence and not the whole context of it, and then it gets misinterpreted a lot. And some people do stuff that's not so great for the horses because they misinterpret it. And I think if you would have just have the whole context, because the sentence actually continues, and if you have the rest of the sentence, it's much more understandable what he actually means by that. So yeah.
I think there were some situations like reported in the news about treatment of horses.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Yeah. But that's some part of this discourse. I think at that time, so it was, maybe just there was horses were very much also driving the economy. Nowadays, it's still very important. There are some alternatives. It's economic. It's just interesting that it's our heritage.
It's part of heritage. Like the art of writing is a part of Western art, Western civilization. Has a big influence. It has had a big influence. We could kind of argue this is culture.
It's a good point here that this kind of Still, nowadays these books are typically not written, but so that book is important, and it's kind of needs to be brought into the modern context. This work kind of directly is related to the kind of creating a term base and some dictionary definitional definitions for these concepts using this book, and maybe just mapping that to what is typically. Are there any dictionaries of these terms in German or in English?
No, I've tried to find good glossaries, good dictionaries, good anything, and it's almost impossible. I am not necessarily sure, but it seems to be a field where nobody really has so far taken an interest in just having a thorough terminology basis and or translations, and because a lot of times it's almost impossible to translate some of the stuff from these books. Because I have worked with a trainer who teaches in French, and she has asked me a few times, because I'm a translator, so I should know how to translate stuff, how and if I could translate something for her into French or into German or into English, and I was just like, I don't know. And all my resources I learned during my studies to find a translation I don't know about, I don't find. There are some words that just don't exist in other languages, where nobody has tried to translate them to give something at least. And it was always a bit frustrating to tell her, no, I can't help you. Sorry. I don't know how to say it in French. I don't know how to say it in English.
That's excellent. That's kind of very good motivation for this type of project. So there is a problem of creating lexicographical resources and translation resources for the community who are enthusiastic about this.
Also, there are translations of this book into French and German, I think, and I heard another trainer say that the English translation is awful and that you shouldn't read it because it was very badly mistranslated. And then he went on a rant about how the translator just fucked up the translation and everything. And in the end, I asked him, are you sure that the translator did not do a good job? Or did the translator just not have the resources to translate it? Did he not have anybody who explained to him what all of it meant? And also, like, when I try to look it up, there are zero resources to help you translate. So obviously, if you, one, don't understand it, and two, you don't have a dictionary or something to look up a translation, obviously your translation is not going to be good. People are always very quick to blame the translators, but sometimes it's not the translator.
It's like the whole infrastructure which should be supporting translations.
Yeah, you need to give the translator the opportunity to do his or her job well. If you set them up to fail, they will fail.
All right, any questions? Thanks so much.
Derek?
All right, so we'll hear hopefully the rest of the presentations next week, and if there is any time left, so I'll just also go through some of my things, but otherwise, if no further questions or comments, we'll see each other next week, and it will be our last class. Thank you. Right, yeah, okay, yeah, so I'll send you the link. It is a link, like link only. People only that it passes.
Because there's a lot of.